All right, am I live? Let me see here. I'm going to just check out real quick. Let me go to YouTube and see if I can find my stream. Night Owl Riders. And Night Owl Riders Room. There it is. Okay, it's live. Okay. So I was like, the Rumble Studio was just like hanging up again. That's why I had to cancel the other night. I just kind of like started up, but I refreshed the page and it seemed to work. So new software, giving them a chance, seeing how this goes. Okay. Um, Tonight I don't have anything specific planned. I was thinking about working on the logo for this, but I don't know what I did with the original artwork. So like I had a version of the logo, the bedtime stories for insomniacs logo, which is kind of very stylized person in bed reading a book, and I was going to transform it into a Night Owl Writers logo that would have the same pillow on the backdrop, and then I would change the oval into an owl and have them perched on top of a computer, a laptop. So that's the plan for that, but I'm trying to find the original graphics file that I used to create that, and I can't seem to locate it. It's not on my laptop. It's not on my desktop. I'm not sure what happened to it, but I do have some things I want to show you guys. Let me get this set up here. I'm just going to open up my monitor here so I can share a whole screen. There we go. And let me share the screen with you guys. Share screen. There we go. Share. Okay, and then I get a presentation. Ta-da! All right, so these are the bookmarks I was working on the other night. Uh-oh. Hang on a sec. I did not click OK. Keep this. Hang on. Do 19. There we go. And there's some little. There it is. Keep changes. There it is. Okay. So now we've got it here. I'm not interested in that. Okay. All right. So here's how it turned out. So I've got these things going on here. Oh, I had like a sheet of paper. So basically, imagine this: you fold it in half lengthwise, and then fold it in half, and then in half again, and so you get like a little, almost. Let's see here. 11 divided by 4 is about 2 3/4 inches by 8.5 is 4 1/4 inches, right? So a little 2 by 4 sized, kind of like a giant business card more than a bookmark. But as you can see, I've got like 8 different genres on there. These QR codes all link up to the website, which is, let's see if we can get the website up here. No, that's not it. I have the website open here. I do not. Let me open the website up here real quick for you guys. Here it is. And I come here to stories here, but stories, and you go to these drop downs here. So, for example, the monster stories here. If you scan this QR code, you'll be taken to the monster stories page, and you'll get just the monsters. But the cool thing is that you'll be able to see all the stories. Right? You can either click on this and go to all, or click on stories, and you can see the novels, and you can see where to subscribe, where to buy, and about submissions and stuff. So all that stuff is still there. So my goal is to hand out like hundreds of these at the book fair. Hey, what kind of stories do you like? Someone passes by, like science fiction. I don't have any novels, but I do have plenty of short stories. Why don't you take a listen? So if I can get like several hundred more subscribers, I'm wishing there. Listeners, just at least people tune in. Then maybe I can break into the charts. I keep hovering around 400 on the Apple charts for fiction. I think you need to get into the top 100 to really start making a dent. But I don't think I'm that far off in terms of the number of listeners because my listeners don't vary too much. And well, we'll see how it goes. I was planning to have Jody Sperling's story up on Tuesday, which was yesterday. Oh, it's just today. But as I was listening to it, as I was doing the sound effects, I decided I was going to use a different voice. The story is, and as I interviewed him on Saturday or Sunday. I interviewed him on Sunday about the story, and he was telling me about the origin of it and how it was kind of like inspired by, him going to church and a preacher and stuff like that. And this story really needs like a preacher's voice. So what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to re-record. I'm not going to do it now because, as we discovered way back in episode 1 or 2, I cannot do a live read and Rumble or Rumble Studio at the same time because they compete for the volume. But let's see what I got here. I can, sort of like practice on you guys. So maybe I'll do a little bit of practicing here on this voice. We'll see if we can narrow it down. Put this away. So this is the front of the bookmark, and then this is the logo. This is the art for Jody's story. It's about in the Garden of End Times. It's and the Garden of End Times is a rose garden, and we're waiting for the Cubs to win the World Series. So I thought this would be a kind of nice juxtaposition for the graphic for that. Gotta update the printer. Yes, no. Okay, where did that other one go? Let's see here. Oh, I don't have it open. Okay, let me pull that open for you guys. Okay, BSFI. That one is no, it's under shows. Sometimes I think creating these folders makes it easier to organize. But other times I'm like, it just makes things more complicated. So this is the back, right? So this is on the back of each one of these. I'm going to have this for more stories from Rich Hosick, have the covers of my books, QR code to my website, and then so that'll be a nice little handout I can give people. I ordered 200 of each, so that's 200 times 8 is 1,600 bookmarks. If I can give out all 1,600 bookmarks, that would be awesome. So I'm going to give that a try. And then let's see if I can find the story here. Here it is. Okay. So here is the story. And the voice I want to do is, like I said, more of a almost a preacher type voice. I'm thinking Prairie Home Companion because this story ends in Omaha, Nebraska. Not quite Minnesota, but it's that same sort of Scandinavian vibe because the town where Jody lives actually is like Swedish capital of the Midwest or something. Um, So before I was reading it like this, I was doing Jesus finished the beetle picking early and went to a village in rural Kent for a beer, which is like my soft voice. And I'm this is not a soft story. The more I think about it, the more I talk to Jody about it, this is a story that wants to smack you in the face and make you listen to it. So I'm thinking more of a direct voice, more of a purposeful voice, someone who's at the telling this story from the pulpit. So Jesus finished the beetle picking early and went to a village in rural Kent for a beer. What she really looked forward to was the day of restoration, when she could drink wine again. But 2,000 years ago, incarnate in the masculine, Jesus had been the sort to dole out hasty vows, which is why he said, "For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come." And promises are promises. Yeah, it's close. It's close. I need to work on this a little bit. Let me try this a little bit. Let's see here. Maybe if I put like a little southern lilt into it, soften it up a little bit now. The normal retinue of tag-alongs were in attendance, and sitting on a high stool, Jesus was trying to ignore a rabbi's doctrinal barrage of questions on account of the television. Tuned to ESPN, the ticker at the bottom of the screen showed the Chicago Cubs had lost again. Had lost again. Anywhere her fa- Let me try that again. Anywhere her father plants his gardens, from the South Bronx to Macassar, Jesus hunts for Cub scores because this is all her father has told her regarding his timeline for the restoration. You will know the time is near when the Cubs win the World Series 3 times. Let me try that again. I was thinking about doing that. You will know the time. You will know the time is near when the Cubs win the World Series 3 times. Which, think about it, for nearly 1900 years, that reference meant less than nothing. So for the past 120, give or take, the very existence of baseball has been a good indicator of final things to stir. What a tease, then, is the father? Well, Chicago put 2 series in the bag back to back in the early part of the 20th century, and Jesus was picking out fashionable summer robes for her return to Jerusalem. But hold the rod and staff, the Cubbies hadn't gone all the way since 1908. The thing I'm not saying is 1908, which, yes, to Jesus is the blink of an eye. But even blinking is longer than not blinking. Okay, I think I'm getting close here. I'm going to read a few more paragraphs here just to get in the flow of this. Contemplating the Cubs' recent loss, Jesus ordered a honey wheat lager, and while waiting for her drink, let her hair down, shaking a thick mop of brown curls. A few stools down, a young woman, about the age of Jesus' body, looked on. The woman said, "Excuse me, is this rabbi bothering you?" It's not the rabbi per se. In my English accent, in the other story, it sounded more Australian than English. "Excuse me, is this rabbi bothering you?" That's a little bit better. "Excuse me, is this rabbi bothering you?" It's not the rabbi per se. It's not the rabbi per se, nor, though, is it the work Jesus resents. Not the weather, not even the ferociously ticklish business of incarnation, that taking on of skin and bone from the sexless, timeless paradise that is home. It's the assumptions that all the rabbis and priests and pastors and clerics and cardinals and chazans and elders and deacons and zaddiks who gather at her father's gardens argue their case. Seems, if one's to listen to all those religious folks go on, most anybody could do a better job of things than Jesus and her pops, and that fickle Holy Spirit. Too hard to explain any of that, Jesus said. Too hard, no, try it again. Too hard to explain any of that, Jesus said. Yes, and cast a glare at the rabbi. But I don't need any help, if that's what you're asking. Hey, pal, the woman said to the rabbi, leave the lady alone. I said I didn't need any help, Jesus said. She fixed her gaze on the row of liquor bottles beneath the mirror that ran the length of the bar. I'm man enough to handle my own problems. What did you say? I'm man enough to handle my own problems. The woman looked Jesus up and down, lingered on her bust, and laughed. Wonders never cease. She straightened the heavy framed glasses on her face and said, There's nothing wrong with being a strong woman. Jesus said, There are no strong women, only women and men. Jesus fucking Christ. That's me, the Alpha and the Omega. Not so much the middle part, though. Heavy Frames narrowed her eyes and tilted her head. Just Jesus Christ. I don't have a middle name. And if I did, it certainly wouldn't be fucking. Okay, I'm sorry. You're clearly insane. It's not worth trying to disabuse you of your sexism, Heavy Frame said. It's sad that we live in a world where even women buy into the idea that only men can be strong. Heavy Frames was turning to recapture her bar stool when Jesus said, Strength is a masculine quality. Why is that a problem? I'm pretending I didn't hear that, Heavy Frame said. She buried mouth and nose in her wine glass and drained a long draught down her throat. Her hair, fixed in place with incredible amounts of gel, spoke more of the times than of her sexual orientation. Lesbians in Rome had worn flowers in their hair. Gays grew chest-length beards and blackened their leg and arm hair with charcoal. Jesus said, Then you're making peace, which is a feminine quality. Heavy Frame swung around, her face red-stained with rage. I don't know where you come from or who taught you such bullshit, but I'll tell you that where I'm from there are plenty of strong women who stand for their beliefs, and plenty of men who run from a fight, which I think is what you meant to say, which is what I think you mean when you say making peace. You have said so, Jesus said. Oh, piss off, Heavy Frame said. And it was about time to be heading off. Jesus smiled, dropped a gold coin on the bar, drank off her beer, and told the rabbi to wait up. It was good living in a woman's body. Jesus could slip into the restroom where the rabbi would not follow, lock a stall door, and ascend to paradise. Yeah, I can be a little bit more emotive with this voice. I've got a bigger range, I feel. So I'm gonna practice this. I'm gonna continue practicing this for tonight. I think this is what this is gonna evolve into. This is take two on the in the Garden of End Times. All right. They're called Japanese beetles, and Jesus lately spends the growing season plucking the little bastards from her father's rose gardens. In the dusk of a punishing summer afternoon, when storm clouds zip the heat in, and lightning peals across the horizon, when it could be AD 33 for all the rage the heavens promise to unleash, and when Jesus is wearing light duty cotton gloves, pinching oil slicked, greenly glowing, redly reflective, armor winged insect bodies from the finely chewed leaves of scented rose plants, when it's like that, all Jesus can think about doing is the whole robes dipped in blood, rider on a white horse, sharpened sword, come to judge the living and the dead thing. It started back in the year 2000, when Japanese beetles were still a problem only the Japanese dealt with. Jesus' father had planted his gardens in Kobe. Near the end of the blooming season, Jesus was instructed to harvest as many plants as she could manage and arrange their shipment to Israel. There would be a great feast in Jerusalem that year, and Father wanted his rose gardens to be the main attraction. Jesus had never transplanted, let alone transported, grown rose plants, but she knew something was afoot, something more than the simple movement of flowers for a feast. She asked, if possible, that that cup be taken from her, but as in prior times, the Father was mute in response to the request. Second only to blood, the red damask rose pleased the Father most. So this is, I think, one of those sentences that Jody means to casually offend. I think is he wouldn't mind me saying. All right. Uh, you know what? I forgot to get myself a drink. I'll be right back. This is completely bad live stream etiquette, but I'll be right back. There you go. I'm back. All right. So I'm still refining this voice a little bit. Careful to pluck every beetle from the plant's leaves, Jesus potted 20 dozen roses, called the Kobe Shipping Company, and arranged for delivery. The potted soil had been treated for lava, and somehow, somewhere, one of the rose plants must have escaped notice. The following year, there were reports. Yeah, the Southern lilt I'm not in love with here. I'm going to try and take it more Midwestern, more upper Midwestern here. Following year, following year, there were reports of a species of beetle attacking beans and roses and practically any leafing plant at all throughout the Middle East. Yasser Arafat accused the Israeli military of attempting a new biological warfare, but the accusations were muffled when it became clear that the beetles harassed every land, government, and people, regardless of national affiliation and religious persuasion. Regardless of national affiliation and religious persuasion. Jesus' father sent her to Dubai to tend roses that year. Even in Dubai, Catholic priests and Jewish zaddicks found her. Their greatest point of contention that summer regarded Jesus wearing a hijab. That's a little bit too. Jesus wearing a hijab. Hijab. Jesus replied, "Would you have me crucified again?" "Give the Caesar what belongs to Caesar," the priest said. The rabbis were not satisfied. There was no beer at all to be enjoyed there, and fresh yogurt with figs only appeals for so long. One day, around dusk, when the roses were in full bloom, and the Japanese beetles had been hand plucked from every leaf on the rose bushes, Jesus suggested to the priest, an elderly man, and the only one among the religious stalkers who seemed to have warmed slightly to Jesus, that they brew mead in the cellar on the property where her father's roses grew. The priest had not brewed a strong drink since he left the Trappist monastery, seeking a commission to bring relief to God's workers in the Middle East. They waited for final dusk, then slipped out of the compound. In a field not far out of town, where a grove of oaks and cedars had been planted, and where the government had allotted millions of gallons of water to be poured, Jesus and the priest found a wild beehive. Jesus prayed over a fallen branch nearby, and the spirit kissed its brittle bark with tongues of flame. Kissed its brittle bark with tongues of flame. Jesus tossed green leaves and milkweed on the fire, and the resulting smoke she used to tame the hive. The priest hiked his habit and scaled the tree after Jesus said, "You have a penis. Being a man comes more naturally to you. Be brave." Later, the priest would express surprise at what Jesus had said, and Jesus would say, "I can be a man if necessary, but it is hard work." The priest would not be comforted or enlightened by Jesus' assessment. All told, they harvested nearly a gallon of fresh honey, leaving that much and more for the bees to nourish their hive. The bees in the Middle East were the most generous bees in all the world. Perhaps they knew they were closer to God's holiness than other creatures, and this was a geographical knowledge as well. This was a geographical knowledge as well. Acquiring distilled water happened to be more difficult than harvesting honey. It was finally by sleight that Jesus convinced a rabbi to go to market and obtain the needed water. How can we perform our ablutions to the code of if we have fouled water? So that's how Jody wants that read. Um, let me bring this over here a little bit. It's kind of weird. Make it a bit wider. There we go. Now you can see the whole thing. If we have fouled water, the rabbi was wary of Jesus' request for 10 gallons, but eventually conceded. He returned with the plastic jugs and only one gold coin remaining from the 20 Jesus had sent from the town with. Distillate is more valuable than explosives. Distillate is more valuable than explosives in these parts, the rabbi said. I need a more like a distillate is more valuable than explosives in these parts, the rabbi said. At midnight that same night, Jesus and the priest mixed the honey with water and live yeast. Before Jesus could enjoy the fruit of her labor, the Father called her home. And the next day she ascended after watering the rose garden one final time. To this day, there is likely yet a generous supply of deeply fermented mead hidden in the cellar of the abandoned compound where the wild roses grow and where the Japanese beetles feast freely each year. Each year. In the summer, hmm. In the summer of the 16th year of the 21st century, the father planted his garden in Omaha, Nebraska. Jesus was tempted to question the location. What with the prairie expanse and the negligible population, Jesus had spent her share of summers in humid climates, enough to know she favored desert climes. The father said, "Were you not born in Nazareth?" It was true. Somewhere in the center of the Godhead there was favor shown to the insignificant places. Jesus was somewhat familiar with postmodern Western culture, having spent the previous summer in the English countryside, where she had met heavy frames and drank beer with a rabbi, a priest, and a Zadok. But Omaha, from all the news Jesus had read, excuse me, was not only the opposite of a destination getaway, but a vestige, an outlier of the American Bible Belt community. All right. Trouble with drinking carbonated waters, you get a little belchy. But I can't help myself. I like the fizz. Jesus materialized in a field of corn. Why she was always dressed. Why was she always dressed in white robes? It would have been no trouble for the father to spend 5 minutes online researching current fashions, but always robes. At least the cornfield appeared to be in the middle of the city. Jesus came out of the stalks onto a straight road. She followed it to an intersection, 132nd and Dodge, and spotted a glowing sign that read, Hy-Vee. What was interesting? I was I don't know where was I? I was online or something like that, and I saw a commercial or an ad for like Hy-Vee. It's like there's no Hy-Vees where I live, and I wonder if it's another case of like my phone listening to me. I said Hy-Vee, and it says, "Oh, you want to see ads for Hy-Vee?" It's like, no, I don't. I don't have any Hy-Vees near me. All right. She patted her robes and found the standard 33 gold coins, one for every year she had suffered as a man during her first appearance. Everywhere about her, cars seemed rushed. Jesus nearly was hit by a truck as she crossed the off ramp at Dodge towards the Hy-Vee. In the parking lot of the store, a young driver piloting a small red car blared his horn at Jesus. Near the entrance, two young girls pointed and laughed at that freak in the robes. Father, Jesus had prayed silently, forgive them. for they know not what they do." Hy-Vee was a grocery store. Jesus asked a boy in a white collared shirt and tan khaki pants where she might find a selection of clothing for sale. The boy scoffed. He said that he didn't know if there was anywhere in town that carried robes. He also seemed to pity Jesus. "No, you misunderstand me. I'm looking for, what was the word? Normal clothes. The type of thing a woman my the type of thing a woman my age would wear." The boy thought for a moment. "There's a Target down on Maple." "Where?" The boy's face scrunched. He knew he was experiencing something unique, but he couldn't decide if it was the kind of unique thing he should respect or scorn. "Keep west on 132nd," he said. Walking, Jesus found it difficult to breathe. The air, so full of moisture, caused her to wrestle for every lungsful. She arrived at Target panting and painted with sweat. The wool of her robes beneath her arms and around her thighs was soaked through. She aimed directly for the women's clothing and snapped up two camisoles, three 36C cream-colored brassieres, horrible contraptions that most definitely caused cancer, but which she could not get away without wearing in 21st century America. Two button-down plaid shirts, two pairs of 95% cotton Mossimo jeans, and a packet of cotton Hanes underwear. The cost of goods in gold was difficult to estimate, but Jesus had it going for her that she could always manage to find an ailing cashier, some middle-aged woman who suffered from especially painful menopause or an acute case of arthritis. And to that woman, Jesus could offer the gold coin and healing in exchange for the woman to use her own credit card to complete the needed transaction, the needed purchase. See, I wanted to say transaction, but it said purchase, but my brain saw transaction. Such was the case at Target, and Mary Druthers, 51, mother of James and Devon, would return to her husband with a coin valued at $800 and free of the wave of hormones that caused her to nightly scream at her husband Lachey for the most inane of circumstances. Jesus not only invested in that woman's financial well being, but she rescued an ailing marriage with her healer's touch. Discarding her robes in the bathroom wastebasket, Jesus dressed in her new clothes. That which she bought for later, she bundled inside the second button up, tying it off at the sleeves. The next matter of business was to find her father's rose garden. Over the past decade, the father had taken increasing pleasure in making the initial hunt more challenging. Jesus had spent the better part of her first week turning over every nook and cranny in the south of Kent, looking for her plot of damasks. Omaha was a smaller community, but more spread out, and the thought of hunting in the humid, high sun heat was almost more than she could bear. She walked east along Maple, a bit aimless and feeling angry. Crows lit on the shoulder of the road some distance ahead, pecking the remains of an animal that had failed to ford the street. Jesus stopped short of the dead animal. Seeing it was a medium-sized tabby cat, Jesus felt compassion. She inclined her face to heaven and prayed. At first, the crows seemed undisturbed by Jesus' behavior and what was happening to their lunch. But when the cat mewled, revived by the Spirit, the crows hopped back a smidge. Then the cat rolled to its feet and sprung at the nearest crow, tearing its throat out. The bird died without protest. The cat nuzzled its kill to the feet of Jesus, and Jesus stooped to thank the cat. "Go ahead, eat it. You must be famished. Death is a tiring business, and life so much more." Cat butted its head against Jesus' soft ankles and, turning, set about picking the meat from its kill. Jesus scanned the horizon. At the intersection of 120th and Maple, there was a man, elderly, wearing filthy clothing. He held a sign: "Repent, the end is near." Jesus walked through the heavy, wet air, leaving the cat to its meal. She hoped the cat had learned its lesson and would turn back from the road when it was well nourished. Nearing the filthy man, Jesus called out, "You wouldn't happen to know of any new rose gardens in the area?" The filthy man lowered his sign slightly. His jaw hung slack. His jaw hung slack. Like that would really mess that one up. This was always the way with the religious. They sensed Jesus before they knew her, but even though they came to know her, she never withheld her identity. They never embraced her. This filthy man was especially dumbfounded. "You're the Son of God." It was Jesus' turn to marvel. "You have said so." "Never thought you'd be so purty." The Son of Man was not one to behold. "Well, taste change, I suppose." "Perhaps," Jesus said. She was at least considering the possibility that to one who recognizes God in man, beauty is of limited importance. "Can you believe these folks?" the filthy man said. "Every one of them drives past here, and not one of them so much as look at me. They all seem to think I got disease in my bones." Jesus saw that, in fact, the man did have disease, though not in his bones, but in his mind. He suffered from a lack of monoamine, monoamine, serotonin synthesis. The resulting condition, likely, severe anhedonia. Likely the man left his street-side post each day to return home, wherever home was, and upon reaching that place succumbed to a crushing weight of depression near unto suicide. "May I lay hands on you?" Jesus asked. "Be my guest," the filthy man said. "You've been touched by no hands in longer than I can remember." Jesus did. Jesus did. And she drew the sick from the man. The filthy man's eyes brightened, and with the light there, he seemed not half so foul. "A mighty kindness," the man said. Jesus said, "Now, about those rose gardens." The man folded his sign. It felt weightless to him. Might be every driver down that stretch of road was aimed right at hell, and it couldn't seem to matter suddenly. "Don't seem to remember any news of any new rose gardens. Over there," he pointed crosswise through the intersection, "there's the best garden shop in all Omaha. They'd be likely to know about new gardens, I expect." Jesus followed the man's outstretched arm. "Thank you," she said. The man nodded. The man nodded. Turning to walk away, Jesus paused. She looked back. "What about the cubs?" Here it is. "What about the Cubs? The Chicago Cubs?" "Good gosh almighty," the man said. "They nearly won the whole cheese last year. Come right up to the Mets and crashed. This year they're supposed to be twice as good. Expect it might be high time." Jesus waved and thanked the man. The Cubs, who had been in third place in their division when she returned to her father from Kent the year before, had almost won it, and they were even better this season. She walked to the garden store. She could almost taste the wine on her lips. She could almost taste the wine on her lips. She could almost taste the wine on her lips. Okay, so I get closer toward the end. I'll probably work on it a little bit more, but want to be. I think the important thing is consistency when you're trying out a new voice, trying to figure out what he's saying. And I found myself at times talking too quickly. Um, the key to good narration is to speak slowly enough so that people who have trouble understanding, people who maybe have hearing problems, will be able to understand you clearly. And those who don't can fast forward to like one and a half speed or even double speed and be able to understand what you're saying. That's pretty cool. So, Jesus finished the beetle picking early and went to a village in rural Kent for beer. what she and I want to emphasize the she the first time I see it, so I practice this one. What she really looked forward to was the day of restoration when she could drink wine again. 2,000 years ago, incarnate in the masculine, Jesus had been the sort to dole out hasty vows. Oops, my phone. Turn that off. Always turn your phone to silent when you're recording. Um, which is why he said, "For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come." Yeah, promises are promises. The normal retinue of tag-alongs were in attendance, and sitting on a high stool, Jesus was trying to ignore a rabbi's doctrinal barrage of questions on account of the television tuned to ESPN. The ticker at the bottom of the screen showed the Chicago Cubs had lost again. Anywhere her father plants his gardens, from the South Bronx to Macassar, Jesus hunts for Cub scores because Jesus hunts for Cub scores because this is all her father has told her regarding his timeline for the restoration. You will know the time is near when the Chicago Cubs win the World Series 3 times. Which, think about it, for nearly 1900 years, that reference meant less than nothing. And so for the past 120, give or take, the very existence of baseball has been a good indicator of final things astir. What a tease, then, is the father? Chicago put 2 series in the bag, back to back, in the early part of the 20th century. And Jesus was picking out fashionable summer robes for her return to Jerusalem. But hold the rod and staff. But hold the rod and staff. The Cubbies hadn't gone all the way since 1908, which, yes, to Jesus is the blink of an eye. But even blinking is longer than not blinking. Okay, there we go. So that's where I'm going to end up with that. So I'm going to record that tomorrow. I'm not going to stay up too late tonight because if I stay up late, it will not be good. I want to have a fresh voice for this too. So that'll be done, and then I've already got some of the sound effects laid in, so I'll be able to use this track and then just move the sound effects around to match up with this. But I'm going to keep the beginning and the ending in my regular narrator's voice, my regular host voice, which is more pretty medium range voice. It's like, thank you for listening to In the Garden of End Times by Jody J. Sperling. All right. Dreams of Fur, I got to record this one too. I might record this one tomorrow as well, because this one's pretty much done. And then Leap, I got to finish writing that one. We actually broke the end of this one the other night, and I got to finish writing that out. But been getting ready for the show. So just got an email the other day. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Nope, there it is. So this is the Printers Row Literary Festival. And here's something really cool. So like I showed you guys that the name of my group that we're selling here is #writers. And there we are, right? The very first one. #writers. So that's kind of funny that we get to be first in the directory here. And so QQ South is going to be way over here on this end of the festival. Well, we are between 3 stages actually, which is we'll get some traffic here. And you got book sales and signings going on right there. So there's a lot of people. This is going to be a main attraction, I think, for people. You got Chicago Public Library booth right there. And so we're going to be right here, this side of this booth right there, QQ. And so we'll see how that works out. We'll see if we get enough traffic there. When I was, there the other last summer, I remember walking up and down this aisle back and forth and making the rounds through here as well. But I think I would much rather have been in one of these tents along here. maybe next year. I don't know. Maybe they do it this way in accordance with this. But I was one of the first people to register, I think, too. So I'm not sure if I got a prime spot or if I got shafted from a prime spot because this feels, you know, in so there's like two book signing things here. There's book signing and sales there, and then down here as well. So there should be some people coming through here. I think Chicago Public Library actually sells used books here at this station. So you get a lot of people making this traffic, making the rounds. So you come down here and walk around, come back up here, and then you go down there and see all the booksellers and stuff. So again, we'll see how it goes. I've got plans here. I'm oh God, I got so much to do. I gotta make a display case for my mini books. I need to print out some 11 by 17 posters. I screwed up, ordered the wrong thing from Amazon. I got to reorder that. Um, or maybe I'll just go with this one. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, I want like the bigger ones. Let's see here. My orders. See if I ordered the wrong thing. Yep, I did order the wrong thing. I got to take that back. So I ordered 8.5 by 11 instead of 11 by 17, and I searched for 11 by 17. So this is. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, guys. So this is like the little stands I got, but I want them to be bigger. So let me see if I can find bigger ones here. 11 by 17 acrylic sign stand. So these are the ones that are kind of like, freestanding. They're kind of flimsy. I wanted the one with the sturdy base like this. So this is what I thought I bought. I thought I was going to getting this at a good deal, but I wasn't. So I'm going to go ahead and order these. Prime free delivery by Friday. Okay. Buy now. Get to see. Oops. Am I like showing my address here? I have to delete this stream now. I'm not gonna. No one's gonna see it. All right. I'm gonna finish this on screen. So I've got this here. Let's see here. What are the delivery options? Free delivery on Friday. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay. All right. Let's just go ahead and order that. I don't like it. It's a little pricier on Amazon, but they've got a bigger selection and they do allow returns. And there's a Kohl's nearby. I can take things easily enough. And so that's the plan for that. Okay. All right. So, yeah, there's the book fair here. So that's where I'm going to be Saturday and Sunday, and I'll get Jody's story up probably tomorrow evening. And then I've also got an interview with him, but I need to have the story because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut segments of the story in between portions of the interview, so it'll be kind of nice. I'll show you what it looks like real quick here. See if I can pull that up here. Where is it? Clipchamp, where are you? There it is. So this is what I've got going with this here, right? So this here is how I can create this thing. And so I use this software called, not software, but this web service called Riverside FM to do the interview. And the thing about it is it's nice that it records the tracks locally and then uploads them, and then you can take their thing. But it recorded Jody at a much lower volume than me and distorted my voice. So what I had to do was download the individual, and they were kind of um, time shifted incorrectly. Like Jody was like coming in a second and a half earlier than when I was talking to him, so it really screwed up the tracks. Fortunately, they give you the individual video and audio tracks, um, so you can download those separately. So I brought them into this software called Clipchamp. This is Microsoft's new video editing software, and I was able to take my video track and audio track, and I took the audio track, put it into my audio software, and sweetened it up a little bit. And then I did the same thing for Jody's, and then I lined them up here. I can see here how it's slightly off a little bit here because that's where Jody's comes in. So let me see if I can play this here. Jesus hunts for Cub scores because this is all her father has told her regarding his timeline for the restoration. You will know the time is near when the Cubs win the World Series 3 times. And that is the beginning of Jody J. Sperling's story, In the Garden of End Times, on the Bedtime Stories for Insomniacs Fiction podcast. Jody, thank you for lending me that story to produce on the show.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited. I love your narrating, and so a story that I'm proud of will be even better with your narration.
All right, so that's generally how it's going to go here. So it's my first attempt at an interview. I don't know how well I did, but I mean, I've known Jody, so it was pretty comfortable. And he makes it easy because he interviews a lot of people. He knows how to be a good guest. So we did that. And like I said, I'm going to chop it up here and put in different segments from the story. Of course, I'm going to take the newer version of the story here and see here where I like make a transition. Show that it's kind of cool. I'm going to show this to you. Misogynist, in her opinion, about men and women.
Yeah.
Hi, pal, the woman said to the rabbi. Leave the lady alone. Yeah, I said I didn't sounds need a little any help, Cockney or Australian. Jesus said. She fixed her gaze on fucking Christ. That's me, the Alpha and the Omega. Not so much the middle part, though.
Yep, it is true that like there are certain roles that have to be men. That's a funny idea to me as well.
Yeah, and then I got the cool little text in here. So this program allows you to put like a background in there. And I was able to take each video track and then resize it and what do they call it? Not trim, but crop it. So I basically took the video and cropped it and repositioned it here because it was lower resolution anyway. They only give you 720p for the free version, so it kind of worked out nicely. And then, yeah, so I've got all that there, and then this will come here. I got a few more spots. I'm going to put interview or story clips, and we talked for about 18 minutes or so. And so with the stories, it'll be about 20 minutes or so interview. So again, a little behind the scenes stuff going on here. So this is how I do this. Is the tools I'm using. I don't think this is a very sophisticated tool. I'm sure Adobe Premiere is much, much better at this kind of thing. But for my purposes, it's working out really well. It can do all the things I want to do. I can bring in audio and video and shift it over and cut it and stuff like that. So I think this is going to be good. All right, everybody. It's time to go to bed. So I think I'm going to shift though to this 11 p.m. Central time. So it's going to be midnight Eastern time, which, according to some people, is the only time that really matters. But it's going to give me a little bit because it meshes better with my schedule. Because I don't know if I mentioned I teach a class on computer programming, full stack web development, and that goes until 10 o'clock. And so that gives me time to get ready for the stream and do it from 11 to midnight rather than midnight to 1, where I would have 2 hours. And I'm like, maybe I'll lie down and take a nap before the stream. Now it's like, okay, no, let me do this now. And then I'll go to bed at midnight instead of 1 in the morning. It'll be a little bit easier for me to rearrange things. So that is going to be a thing now where I'm going to do this at 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. Eastern time, and that'll bring it down to 9 p.m. on the West Coast. And of course, if you're in Europe, you're probably talking about, 5 in the morning? No. Yeah. It would be 5 minus 5. About 5 in the morning, yeah. In Australia, you're probably just having lunch. If anyone's listening from Australia, let me know. All right. That's all I got for you tonight. I will see you later. Thank you for stopping by.